Hey, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's that time of year again. We are 1 day away from opening day for the 2025 MLB season. And this is the first time I am doing a power rankings before the season starts. Now, I've been getting a lot of feedback saying I should do it. Normally, we would wait about 10 days, wait for the second weekend before we kick things off. But guys, honestly, it was a lot of fun to try to do it this year. We did the division predictions yesterday. If you haven't seen that, check that out. It's going to be a little bit different than this video. This video is more trying to see who ranks up good against each other. More of the style that the channel likes to see. If you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, power rankings, we are going to be doing an opening day live stream as well tomorrow. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel so that you know when we go live. I'm looking maybe in the afternoon of Pacific, early evening Eastern Standard Time to just maybe watch 2-3 hours, go on, ask questions, talk to the viewers and stuff like that. Hoping to hit 1,500 subs by the end of the month. So if we do that, going to be doing the typical hat giveaway that we do on this channel. But without further ado, let's jump into it. And guys, this was very difficult. I'm not going to lie. From like the bottom row, sure, you probably know who are going to be the most typical worst 6 teams in the MLB. Sure, you might know the top row. A lot of people are going to debate actually once you start getting to 3 and on. But this middle part of the MLB, we saw it very well last year on the power rankings. It's so close in the projected wins as well. If you're looking at Vegas, it's so close. It's really difficult. So I'm going to be pissing a lot of people off, might be making other people happy, just because really, even though you're 22nd, you could jump to 8th after a week or two, just based on where the parity is in the MLB right now. So without any argument, I don't think, we do have number 30, the Chicago White Sox. Last year, they ended the power rankings in 30th as well, so it's not too much of a surprise to see them down there again. And not a lot of changes with this team. The Central continues to have 4 better teams. They're likely going to be last. They have 3 teams that made the playoffs in this division last year. So I think there's not much else to say. Number 29. I do have the Miami Marlins. I think last year Miami was 28th on the board, so it is one drop over the power rankings ending last year. And maybe it's some other teams got a little bit better. It's really going to be only one team. But overall, my view of where Miami is going as a franchise, I'm not super confident. We could see them in this bottom row for the next couple of years. They really only have one bright spot. I talk about it almost every video lately. Alcantara is the bright spot of this lineup. And they're very, very likely going to trade him out this year. So rebuilding, where that rebuild looks like right now, it's hard to say. But if they build up enough prospects over a few years, we're going to see the likes of Baltimore, the likes of Houston a decade ago, these teams that were atrocious for a long time. Maybe they can build some capital, and I think that's what they're excited. Speaking of teams that have been in that rebuild for many years right now, we do have the Colorado Rockies. I have them in 28th. Last year, they were 26th to end the season. And this offseason, again, another situation where they didn't really do anything to get better. They've drafted now at the top of the draft for a couple years in a row, and they're just kind of hitting that situation where the lottery just isn't going to work in their favor. It's time to put some wins together and talk about it all the time. The Coors effect kind of can give them an illusion of being a more competitive ball club than they actually are. At the end of the day, they're in the National League West. They're clearly the worst team in this division, and that kind of sets the tone here. We got 3 teams that are pretty clearly the worst teams in their division, and the only way to go up is to start finding, at least being able to beat that 4th place team. Next up, I do have the LA Angels. Angels finished 29th last year. I moved them up a couple of spots. Sure, I guess the Mike Trout effect. He's hopefully going to put in a full season for this team. But overall, it's another one of those teams. Just not a lot going on. And what else? We got 2 teams at the top of this division, 3 maybe, that are arguably playoff-bound teams, and an Angels team that just can't seem to figure out who they are, especially since Ohtani left. It's going to be a chance for some of the young guys to maybe make themselves the face of this franchise. I've always liked watching the Angels. It's just something about the ballpark that always got me excited. Right now, there's not a whole lot to be excited about. Speaking about ballparks, number 26, I almost called them. I do have the Athletics, not the Oakland Athletics, not the Sacramento Athletics. They're in that Sacramento ballpark, however, dropping one spot from where I had them last year at the end of the season. They did make some splash in the offseason. Severino came as a surprise to a lot of people, but it's the Athletics, and this ballpark raises a lot of questions. We're so used to this wide foul territory situation. Is this going to really hurt them when some of these American League East teams come in there, when the powerhouse of the West offense come in here? Is that kind of not going to work in their favor as much? I'm interested how that's going to work out. Being in a kind of makeshift home field we saw with Toronto and the Bisons a couple of years ago, how that's going to play out. It's kind of interesting with this athletic situation. Of course, Moneyball always being that small market team and not really doing what it is to be competitive. But if you look at their roster, they got a lot of young guys and a lot of guys that maybe can have some impact. I have them at 26th. In my opinion, this is possibly the basement. But I just think the chances of the teams ahead of them to do better was just that much greater. That's why I had them there. Number 25. I have the St. Louis Cardinals dropping down to 25 from 22 to end the season. And realistically, it's because they didn't bring anyone in whatsoever in the offseason. They were one of the most quiet teams in free agency. Sonny Gray continues to be at least on the top, so they do have a highlight of a pitcher. A couple of guys that maybe make a name for rotation, maybe trade interests around the trade deadline, but this is clearly a rebuilding Cardinals team that we've just been so used to being competitive, so used to being in the playoffs for the past number of decades. It's just inevitable. I think a team gets down here eventually. And Cardinals kind of get that. So I'm not too surprised. I don't think Cardinal fans are too surprised that we finally have hit this situation. That's a rebuild season. The one thing I will say for them, at 25, they are by far the best opportunity to make the playoffs. And that strictly goes down to the division. While I think win-wise, Vegas doesn't even have them last in the wins, I kind of don't like their matchup against the rest of the division as much, but it's still going to be super close. So Cardinals at 25. And we start getting into some of these NL Central teams, I think, but we can agree that this is possibly the weakest division in the MLB. So the Cincinnati Reds, they're at 24, dropping one spot. I had them at 23 to end the season. I think for this, Cubs tried to get a little bit better. Milwaukee maybe stayed somewhat the same. Arguably, people are saying they took a little bit step back. Pirates should be better, more experience on that young roster. So I think that's playing the big impact here. Cincinnati, young guys, still guys that haven't really made their name for themselves in this MLB just quite yet. But this is a chance, and this is when we're going to start talking about teams that, while I have them low on the power rankings, guys, this does not mean anything really at this point. It's kind of where I'm predicting. Got to make some cuts. You have to rank them. That's the whole point. And right now, Cincinnati 24, that's kind of where I have them. Number 23, I have the Washington Nationals. I kind of like where the direction of this team is going. I guess you could argue that maybe Cincinnati has a better chance of making the playoffs than the Washington Nationals. But when I kind of matched these two teams up, and I thought about these guys playing like a 5-7 game series, I kind of wanted to lean Nationals at this point. I think just the excitement of some of the stars on the Nationals gets me a little bit further ahead. But of course, Ellie De La Cruz for the Reds, going to be an impact player. This is going to be fun. Excited to see these two teams play each other a couple of times this year. I think with Washington, they're in a sense where, sure, they're a couple years behind the leaders of this division, but they're on the right track, and it's a team that has been down here, and they're working their way up. It's always fun to start seeing that on the power rankings. You see the team that has been struggling down here for a number of years. We saw it with Baltimore Orioles. We saw it with the Arizona Diamondbacks when this channel was new. And now we're many years in, and we're starting to see trends like this, and I think Nationals fit into that trend very nicely. Number 22, do have the Tampa Bay Rays dropping from 17. A lot of it has to do with they just aren't improving. They're another story where they're playing in a stadium that isn't exactly their home. At least they're in the same, I was going to say state, but are the Athletics, so that doesn't really go far. McClanahan going down with a possible another injury here as well, going to set them back even further. This division,
by far the most competitive. But the Rays always find a way to be competitive, especially in the pitching department. They always seem to shut down teams like the Yankees, Boston. They pick up the wins in the division, and they're always a threat to be around the 500 level. But because I do have them as the weakest team in the AL East, I do put them a little bit farther down the board, because realistically, if you're the worst team in the AL East, your chances of making the playoffs are very slim, just because they beat up on each other so much. Number 21, just slightly ahead, and some people will say maybe it's my Blue Jays bias in me, but I do have them at number 21. Funny enough, it is the exact same spot they were to end the season last year. And I guess rightfully so. It's not like they made any amazing splashes. We saw their team name float around a couple of times with some of the big name free agents. None of them worked out. Anthony Santander comes in there to try to bolster an offense that was one of the worst in the MLB last year. Rotation kind of stays intact as last year. Guys starting to get old though. Bassett, Barrios, these guys are getting older. Gosman coming up on mid-30s, I think. But with an aging rotation and an offense and a Vladdy and a Bo that are potentially leaving, the promising part of the Jays is you better start climbing this board, or you could be in this threshold for a few years, and that's what I think most Jays fans are concerned about. Number 20, I have the Pittsburgh Pirates going up a few spots from last year. They ended the season at 24, and Pirates are one of those teams that usually come out firing in April. I'm trying to get ahead of it a little bit here, but if they want to win streak and go up here again, I'm pretty sure they hit the top 10 the past 2 years in April, both years. I thought they finally would turn a corner. And if you watch my division predictions, I'm still kind of thinking that corner will eventually be turned. Will it? I don't know. But the Pirates, this is going to be one of your chances to take this division. This is probably the weakest as a whole. The 5 teams are going to be for a long time going. It's the time where you have Skeens under your control. I know you like to be cheap. You got a lot of first rounders that are still cheap. This is your chance. Will the Pirates take advantage? I'm not sold, and that's kind of why I still have them at number 20 in terms of playing against everyone. Number 19, I have the Minnesota Twins dropping even more spots from number 16 to end the year. And this is one of those teams that arguably could be up here. If you start looking at their roster and that, they'd be up there. And to drop them even farther from where they ended the season last year maybe is a little bit unfair, but with the injuries always playing a factor. And I just feel like the Detroit's getting stronger. Kansas City's getting stronger. Their young guys are getting more and more experience. And I think the window might be closing on Minnesota. And this might be their last chance. They have to stay healthy. Right now at number 19, I'm factoring it in. I need to see some results before I kind of start moving them up. Number 18, the San Francisco Giants, up one spot. So they're into the third row starting this year. And did they really do much to maybe make me bolster them? I guess they signed 2 starting pitchers. Verlander, really old guy, but can he make a difference in this ballpark? I think he has a shot. Robbie Ray, same kind of story. Has the potential ex-Cy Young winner, 2 ex-Cy Young winners coming to San Francisco. I think that's going to have an impact. I think that the fact that Giants match up pretty well against any of the teams I've already listed, especially a lot of these AL teams, I think they're going to get a little bit of advantage playing there for sure. The downside, of course, right now, as you can tell, I have them ranked 4th in their division. So if that's the case, I think you can possibly have all the teams make it, right? If all the division winners plus 3 more, somehow the Giants can sneak in. But if you're looking at it from a playoff perspective, 18th is a little bit out. You're looking at top 6 in each conference, so it's going to be 12th, possibly 13th if it's a little uneven in the top 12. But the Giants, average team, always have that time to shine, and I will not be surprised if we have a good season from them. But at the same time, won't be surprised if it goes the other way. Number 17. This one is arguably probably going to be the most debated, maybe most contested. Maybe it's a little bit of my own coming into this, because Cleveland, they ended the season last year at number 6. They went to the ALCS, and to me, it's just been not anything to be excited about since then. They've sold a little bit, in my opinion, during the offseason. Sure, they bring Quan back, they have Ramirez. But the rotation is a little bit scary until Shane Bieber comes back. They're being led by BB. And if their bullpen can even duplicate what they did last year, I have a lot of concern that they're going to be the team falling back in this division, and that's going to maybe turn into a 2-horse race. But the Central is very interesting. Always divisions get interesting, but I'm not going to dive too much into that. 16. I have the Chicago Cubs. They're up a few spots from last year, from 18. Cubs kind of shows in here in the power rankings what I think. Sure, they signed Kyle Tucker. They bring him in, and he's going to add some offense for sure. But other than that, I don't think the Cubs really did much to improve. So on the power ranking side, I don't think it's necessarily there. I think they do close the gap on the Milwaukee Brewers, and we'll get to them in a little bit here. But overall, I still think these other Central teams are right on their tail, and it's nothing set in stone. And everyone on the Cubs definitely going to win this division. I'm certainly not sold yet, and that's pretty much why I have them exactly in the middle of this division. Number 15, I give them a little bit more credit, obviously, than the Cubs. At number 15, I have the Seattle Mariners. Seattle finished at 14th last year, so it's pretty much the same spot. And they're another one of those stories. Not a whole lot of changes going on, but did they really have to? The rotation was dynamite last year, and those same guys coming back, and they're going to be a big part of it this year. They got to figure out the offense, and I know they signed someone, I can't think of them off the top of my head, to try to impact it, whether he's going to make that big difference or not. Obviously, if I'm not remembering his name right now, can't be that good. One thing hurting them too, I think Texas is going to be a lot step better with all the injuries coming back. Seattle might have missed their window here. Number 15, they're going to have some work cut out for them. Number 14, a team that sat in the top row for a large part, at least for the first half of the season last year. Baltimore finished the year last year as well at 12th, so it's a couple of spots dropped, and obviously a big part of that is Corbin Burns leaving in the rotation, not really improving after that left. The Bats, you would hope, get a little bit better this season with the experience and the young guys. Jackson Halliday didn't have the greatest year, especially when he had that atrocious start when he first came up. And whether he takes the step forward is going to be very impactful in this. I think with Baltimore, Boston's taking a step forward, so that's going to hurt their chances as well. They were borderline 12 and they were bounced in the first round by the Royals. So it's a competitive ball club. They're definitely competitive. Whether or not they're going to be that team that we saw in the first half of last year, I don't think so. I think this is more what their status quo is going to be. Number 13, getting a slight edge over those O's, mainly because of that playoff series. I'm giving them the credit there. Kansas City did finish 13th last year, 13th again, so it's kind of like the same thing. They got the same guys, and if they can perform at that same pace, they'll be in the same spot. So power rankings will adjust based on if we see Waka and Lugo deliver on what we saw last year, whether we see some of their younger guys get even better. Bobby Witt Jr. play. Will he play like an MVP? Those are going to be impactful things, and that's going to be what's going to be the big important thing when they're chasing down number 12, the Detroit Tigers. Last year, they actually ended at 10th, and that was a lot because they were just so hot from August on. They lose Jack Flaherty at the trade deadline, and then they just go lights out. And then they bring Jack Flaherty back, who is going to be even better. Him, Scooble, just should elevate this team. This team is that team. They got the confidence. They built up really last year, and it's going to be April, May. This is what a postseason team's going to do. They're going to have that kind of effort last year. They're going to build on it, and they're going to come out firing in 2025. We'll really know what Detroit's like based on the first 2 months. If they have like a 500, sub 500 first 2 months, I don't think they're going to turn the corner and become that competitive team. However, if they come out firing, get a lead in the Central, I think that is for real, and they are on their way to win this division. We could see Detroit a top 6 team. Do not discount that. Number 11, I have the Mets, and they finished 9th last year, and funny enough, they've signed Juan Soto, and I dropped them a little bit. Manea didn't work out right now. He's dealing with the injury, right? And Montez as well. So they tried to add some rotation depth, and it just hasn't worked out the injuries-wise. Not up to date on the recovery of those. At the same time, I think Atlanta's going to be much stronger. They had injuries, and they still made the playoffs last year. The Mets feels like they kind of fluked their way in last year, but of course with Juan Soto, Lindor, and Alonso at the top of this order, this offense I might be discounting. This could be a top 10 team, but right now I'm kind of leaning they're not. And I gave that 10th spot to the Boston Red Sox. And for the most part, Boston was in that playoff race. I even predicted them to win the ALCS, I think, in August, or was it the July episode last year? they just kind of started so strong and slowly fell off. And I think maybe it was a sign of just the young maturity level of the Red Sox. Of course, it had an impact that their rotation just wasn't healthy. So they're trying to address it this year. Hoek comes in there. He's going to potentially have a second straight year that's just lights out. Crochet, top of the order here of this rotation, and that is going to be a big impact. And if Buehler can show any signs of what he was like in Dodgers uniform for them, this team is very much on their way to the playoffs. Number 9, I do have the San Diego Padres, and I was having trouble kind of placing them. Kind of looked at last year. Last year I had them finish 4th. If you really look at it, they were one win away from winning the World Series, possibly after losing to the Dodgers in the NLCS, or I guess it wasn't the NLCS, but that 5-game, the division series, the 5-game, they were up 2-1 on the Dodgers. Don't blow that. They probably beat the Mets, and they probably beat the Yankees, right? And it was like the West, or the National League's year last year. So they take some steps back, maybe. The aging core, a little bit of concern, but they still got Cease, they still got King, they still have these guys. Musgrove going down, maybe that hurts. Darvish not quite there, maybe that hurts. But at the same time, this team's been there before. They've had their struggles. We've seen them go on bad streaks and rebound and still make the playoffs. I think at this point, you got to give them credit to at least make a shot at the playoffs, unless they show something otherwise early on in the season. Number 8, I have the Milwaukee Brewers, and after winning the division, 5 out of 6 times now, just not really going anywhere in the playoffs. I still think they have the edge in this division. A little bit of a gap you'll see from 8th to 16th with the Cubs in number 2. And I think because of that, the run differential, just stuff we saw last year, it's going to be important. Milwaukee was number 3 last year, so we are down 5 spots. The Cubs are up a couple of spots, so the gap is shrinking in the National League Central. But right now, I'm not ready to be sold on that just yet. Don't forget, Milwaukee logo. I just haven't fixed it yet. I'm waiting for you to comment. Number 7, Diamondbacks. This, I think, is not quite the highest team that didn't make the playoffs last year. But we got to remember, they were in the World Series 2 years ago. The wild card down the stretch and the injuries that Arizona was dealing with was pretty insane. But the wild card was the story. That was so intense. I think Arizona even might have been as late as early September, but definitely August. They were number 1 on my power rankings. They were just playing lights out. I really just thought they were strong. Just the wheels fell off. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on what happened, but I do think they even got better. Of course, Corbin Burns coming in there. This rotation is one to be watching out for. If anyone's going to give the Dodgers a run for their money in this division, it's going to be the Diamondbacks. You can see a little bit of a spread just because, but number 7. Number 6. Now, this is the team I have the highest that did not make the playoffs last year. Maybe it's a little bit of hopium for them in that they're going to rebound from what was pretty much a World Series hangover kind of year. Just nothing started working out. Injuries weren't working out. They just couldn't get anything going. Even though their division was like wide open for majority of the season, just didn't work out. I think they're in a good spot, though, in a tough division. They do have 2 teams to beat up here that are on the bottom. I think that's going to play a big part in what their overall record's going to be, right? And then when it comes to wild card, sure, I don't even have them as the top team in the NL or AL West. It's going to play a big part because these other divisions are pretty tight and they're going to beat up each other a lot. So the fact they have 2 teams at the bottom row here, the only division in baseball that has that ability, I think that does help. It's going to help Seattle. Might help them get over this hump into the playoffs. And of course, it's going to help who I have as the power ranking leader in the American League West, the Houston Astros. Astros won the division again. It wasn't pretty last year, but they did do it again. They lose Bregman. It's a new era in Houston, completely new era, but I'm not sold that it's over yet for this team. They seem to just be trucking along. Alvarez still in there. They bring Paredes in, who is going to be that cushion in that part of the lineup. And they have some depth in the infield, moving Altuve to the outfield. It's an interesting lineup, how they're going to adjust. It's like a new era, new age Houston, but I still think they are a top 5 team, at least at this second. Number 4, Philadelphia Phillies. And man, Philly finished last year at number 5. So it's up 1 spot, and it was just a disastrous series loss to the Mets. They went from losing in the World Series to losing in the championship series to losing in the division series. Trajectory would tell you it's wild card this year, but I think the Phillies are the better team just on paper, just the way their offense lines up, the way their rotation is going. I think Philly is doing the necessary things, and they're going to clearly, in my opinion, be a playoff team. How strong of a playoff performance is really what everyone in Philadelphia is going to gauge this team on. So just the fact you're number 4 before the season starts means nothing to these fans. Number 3, we have the World Series runner-up, New York Yankees, and a lot of people are crying panic. A lot of people are pointing to Garrett Cole going down, that the Yankees are finished. Guys, this team did add Fried. They did have Rodon. They do have Stroman. They do have guys that have careers in the MLB. This team is far from done. And this division does not really have any team that's going to really vie to challenge them. They match up with Boston, we'll call it even, without Cole, in my opinion. Possibly an edge Boston on the starting pitching. You go to the bats, probably it's pretty close, but right now, New York has the history, Boston does not. So at least got that going for them. Judge, we know what he's capable of. Stanton, we know what he's capable of if he stays healthy. They bring in Goldschmidt for 1 year crossover before they get Vladdy. So it's only a matter of time before this team's even stronger. Right now, I think they're the clear favorites in the East, as well as the overall American League. And I don't think there's much of a debate for it, honestly, but we could very well see after 10 games. Number 2. Making a big bounce back after being 11th to end the season last year. And mind you, they made the playoffs. And guys, really, it came down to Atlanta. Injuries, Acuna was out, Strider was out. These guys struggled across the finish line after playing playoff baseball after playoff baseball after playoff baseball. It happens. When you're always in it, you're going to have a year where you're just not in it. And that seems to happen with Atlanta. They go out and they pick up one of the biggest free agents, big leadoff guy, Profar. He's going to fit right in there, especially until Acuna comes back. But when Acuna and Strider come back, I think this team's definitely a number 2, and I'm not going to hold it too much against them until then. That leaves us to number 1. I think you all could have predicted who this was going to be at the start of the video, but we don't watch to see what the number 1 is, right? We watch for the rest of it. But number 1, we do have the LA Dodgers. They already are 2-0. Technically, this is not before the season started. We had the Tokyo series go already, but the Dodgers, what are you going to say? I don't know what else to say. Everyone has them number 1. They did massive splash in the free agent. They signed everyone that mattered, it seems like. They just got better, and they're the ex-World Series champs. One thing usually, I do carry over that World Series, the playoff vibes. Like, I don't want to go 10 games into the season and we see the Yankees go 5-5, and then everyone's like, they should be 16th. That's 10 games, guys. This is baseball. We're about to play 162 games, and we're going to be doing these power rankings every week. So I got to have a grand scheme look at these things. I tried to do it for this. Let me tell you, preseason power rankings was even harder than doing it 10 games in. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for the live stream on opening day. I'm super excited. I know I took the day off work, vacation. Let's do it. And guys, let me know. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to. And let's hit that 1,500 subscriber goal so that we can give away a hat. Thanks, guys. Peace out.